Hey guys, what's up? This is Turpichu and I hope you guys are doing all okay and welcome to the video. In this video I'll be teaching you the basics of manipulating a player's character's movements. So in this video you're basically just gonna learn how you can teleport a player from point A to point B both instantly and smoothly as well. You'll also be able to learn how to make a player walk from point A to point B too. You're also gonna learn how you can make a player face another player or an NPC or part. And lastly, you'll also be learning how you can freeze and unfreeze a player, which would be useful in situations such as when you're in a fighting game and you want to stun someone, or if you're in a cutscene and you don't want players to be moving around. So that's pretty much what I'll be covering in this video. If you do enjoy the video, just be sure to leave a like at the end, and as usual, if you haven't watched the previous videos in the Roblox scripting guide, you should definitely check it out. There should be a pop-up on the top right of the video right now, and if there isn't, you can always just check the link in the description below. So without further ado, let's get started. So before I continue, I do want to just clarify again what Vector 3 and CFrame is, because this video is kind of based off the previous video. So if you haven't watched it 100%, you should go check it out, because it'll make things a bit more easier for this video in particular. But yeah, so just to recap, Vector 3 is essentially you're manipulating a part's position through the world axis, and even if the part is angled or whatever, it's not going to affect the way that it'll be moved. However, a C-frame moves both the position and the orientation of a part, and if let's say a part is angled and you attempt to move it, it will move it along that plane essentially, so otherwise known as the local axis. So just a quick example, you see here right now I'm on my world axis. I can move it like this. If I rotate it, wait, this is the world axis, but if I rotate it, it's still essentially the same. But if I change it back to the local axis, let's say I rotate this like that, now you can see that the arrows are now on the local axis, not on the world axis, and this is C-frame essentially. So that's C-frame and Vector 3, just a quick explanation because we are going to use it once more for this tutorial. So secondly, before we actually do any coding, you need to know how this actually works. So essentially, this is the characters model. It all spawns, everyone's characters spawn underneath the workspace unless you specify otherwise. And basically, if you open up the character model, you can see, the hats, the script, the humanoid. It's going to be limbs, which is just going to be mesh parts. And then lastly, there's going to be something called a humanoid root part. So this is going to be the center of our character. Right now, it's invisible by default. However, when I press 0 for transparency, when I set it, you can see it's visible, right? So this is just basically like the center of the character, I suppose you could say. You could see that it's not affected by animations whatsoever. The animations are only being played on the limbs, and this isn't exactly the same as the torso either for that reason. Even when I jump, you can see it's not angled or anything. So essentially, when we want to teleport a player from point A to point B, we can either set the C-frame / position of this part, or we can just basically move the entire model using another function. So it just depends what we want to do in our situation essentially. Before I get into the coding as well, there is humanoid as well. So I'm not sure, I have gone over this previously, I think in my previous videos, but essentially humanoid is just another object in the character model where it holds the important data for the player, such as their health, their walk speed, how high they can jump. So we're going to be basically manipulating those values. So when we want to freeze a player, we're going to just essentially just change those values to 0 or false. And then when we want to unfreeze a player, we just set them back to their default. But that's basically how we're going to achieve everything that I'm going to cover in this video. So with that out the way, we can now actually get into the coding. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to create a script. And then right now I'm going to teach you how to teleport. So I'm going to create a part, and I'm just going to leave that here, and we're going to call this target. And basically what we want to do is, I'm going to hard code this just for the tutorial, but we're going to do task.wait, and we're going to wait a few seconds so that the player loads in. So the player meaning me for now. So we're going to wait a few seconds, and then we're going to get the character model by setting it to a variable, and we're going to do game.workspace.temperature 4321, since that's my username. And then I'm going to show you the first method, which is manipulating the humanoid root part. So I'm going to create a new variable called HRP, and that's going to be equal to char.humanoidRootPart. And then this is pretty simple. So we're just going to do HRP, so the humanoid root part.CFrame equals game.workspace.target.CFrame. And then let me set the target part to be anchored as well. And essentially what this is going to do is it's going to wait 3 seconds, it's going to find my character, it's going to get the humanoid root part within my character, and it's going to set the C-frame of that humanoid root part to be the same as the target part's C-frame. So when I press play, you'll see, just give it a few seconds, and then boom, I teleport. But as you can see, I teleport onto the ground like that. And that's because what Roblox is trying to do is it's trying to attempt to set me to be in the the center of the target. But obviously this is in the ground, so it's gonna glitch out my character. So a way that we can do is to avoid this is by setting an offset. So we can do CFrame.new 0 to 0. The 2 is just the value that I just decided on. It could be 1, 2, maybe more. It's just a simple offset on the y-axis, which basically just means I'm going to teleport a bit more above it. And as you can see, it's done that successfully, and I don't, my character doesn't go all weird. However, there is an issue with this method. Is the main issue is, let's say this part is in another part. So let me just create that quickly for you. 0.5, and I'm gonna rename this as well, block. So let's say the target that we want to teleport to, or the position, is inside another part. It's gonna bug my character out unless that part's on can collide, and sometimes we might not want to set it to can collide off. So what we can do is, one, obviously we could just increase the offset. However, I think an easier way for you to just avoid this is by using the character model to move instead. So this is pretty straightforward. What we have to do here is just do char, and then we're going to do colon, and then this means we're going to do a function now. And we're going to do move to open brackets, then we're going to have to get the position. So once again, we're going to do game.workspace.target.position, and we're going to do close brackets. So now what this is going to do is it's going to move the entire character model, but it's going to be similar to like the last tutorial where I showed you where if you move a part using the vector 3 or position essentially, it's going to see if there's anything blocking that position, and if there is, it's just going to teleport whatever you're trying to move to. It's going to teleport it above it instead. So if I press play, you'll basically see what it does. And boom, you can see now it puts me on top of the block, because Roblox Studio detects, oh hey, there's a block blocking this part, this position that it wants to teleport to, so just put me on the top. So this is how I would suggest to teleport players, but you can use humanoid root part, and you can use the C-frame to manipulate the player's position as well. It just depends on your situation, to be honest. But yeah, it's just good to know both of them. So that's how you do it instantly, teleporting a player from point A to point B. But let's say we want to do the same, but we want to do it smoothly. So smoothly, then you could maybe use it for like a dash or for like a knockback. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use something called TweenService. So if you've watched the GUI fundamentals videos, we've also used TweenService in that as well. But basically TweenService will just allow us to move the player smoothly. So what we can do here is let me delete this block. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the TweenService. So we're going to do TweenService equals game, get service, TweenService. And then we're going to, basically we're going to need a few bits of information to create a tween, just like how I showed you it in the GUI fundamentals. So we're going to need something called tween info. So this, we're just going to make a variable. It doesn't have to be tween info, the name, it can be literally anything. However, it has to equal to tween info.new. And essentially this is where we're going to keep, we can store in data for the tween. So it's going to be like, oh, how long do you want the tween to be? What kind of animation style do you want it to be? Do you want it to be fast at the end and slow in the beginning? We can basically customize it. Do you want to reverse it? There's other info as well. I'll leave a link to tween info down below in the description, just so you can check it out, just in case you're curious. So for now, I'm just going to set it to 1, you know, keep it simple, and I'm going to do a close brackets. And then what we want to do is we need also a goal variable. So goal, once again, the name doesn't have to be goal specifically, it can be anything, it's up to you really. But yeah, so we're going to do goal, and it has to be an array that has the goal of what we want in mind. So for now, we're going to, since we're manipulating the C-frame of our humanoid root part, we're going to put in C-frame. So we're going to do C-frame, and then I kind of realized we needed the previous variables as well, so I'm just going to do that again. So local char equals game.workspace.temperature4321, local hrp equals char.humanoidRootPart. So right, so this is my players variables, and this is a TweenService. So we're going to do C-frame equals, what we want to do here is, let's say we're trying to make a knockback. We're just going to do hrp.cframe times cframe.new 0 0, and the z-axis usually for the humanoid root part is the backwards and forwards direction essentially. So what we want to do is we want it to go back by a bit, right? We're going to do 10 studs. So although this is positive, this does mean it's going to go backwards, and if I did this as negative, this would mean that it'd go forwards. But yeah, so we're just going to do 10 studs, and then we're now going to create the local tween. So once again, this tween variable can be any name, but we're just going to do TweenService create, and then we're going to provide the 3 variables, not 3, the 2 variables, as well as the part that we want to manipulate. So first we're going to provide HRP, so humanoid root part, then we're going to put in the tween info, then we're going to put in the goal as well. And now this is going to create us a tween, and now with that we can just do tween play, and then we can just do the brackets. And then now hopefully when I press play, it should move us smoothly to this target. No, not to the target, backwards I mean. But yeah, so you can see that it made me go backwards a bit. So I'll just make this a bit more obvious. I'll just do 25 studs. And imagine in a fighting game, you get hit and now it does like a knockback essentially. So that's how you do it to be smoothly. And let's say you just want to, you know, transition, you want it to move smoothly to the target instead. It's simple, we just have to swap this out for the target's position instead. Just going to do game.workspace.target.cframe. If you remember, we're going to have to do our offset. So we're going to do cframe.new, and then just, you know, add a arbitrary number, and just press play. And then yeah, as you can see, it just puts us on top of the part essentially. But yeah, so that's how you would move a player from point A to point B smoothly instead of instantly. So now there's 2 more things that I do want to show you, no, 3 more actually. So quickly, I just want to show you how you can change the part, so how you can change the humanoid root part to be facing a part or an NPC. So what we want to do here is, once again, we're going to do CFrame, and if you remember from last video, I believe I did look at CFrame.lookAt for a moment. So we're going to basically use that again here. So we're going to do CFrame.lookAt, and essentially to use .lookat, we need to get the position that we're at. So we're going to do hrp.position, and then we have to get the position that we want to be looking at. So we want to be looking at the target. So we're going to do game.workspace.target.position. And now basically what's going to happen is after 3 seconds it's going to make the player face the target part, and as you can see it did that. So that's how you can make it so it looks at a particular, that's how you can make your player look at a particular position to the target. Obviously we don't have to use a parts position for any of this. We can just do vector3.new, then we could put in some random numbers as well. But obviously we want to, you know, I just chose a position, I just chose a target part for the tutorial. So we can use lookat as well for that. If you just want to, let's say for example we want to change the angle to be 90 degrees, we can just do that. We can just do hrp.cframe times cframe.angles 00 math.rad, and then we're going to do 90 degrees. So don't forget we have to always use math.rad. Rad basically means radians, and depending on the axis, hopefully it should be correct. It's the wrong way. Might be the y axis. I always get this confused, to be fair. Yeah, as you can see here, it just did a 90-degree turn to the left. Obviously you can change this to be anything. You could just do -90 to make it turn to the right. It doesn't have to be 90, it could be any number, it could be 12, could be 60, it could be literally anything. But this is essentially how you would manipulate the angle of the humanoid root part without using lookat. So this just uses CFrame.angles. But yeah, moving on, I do want to show you how you can also freeze a player and unfreeze a player. So for that we're going to need the humanoid. So yeah, so humanoid equals char.humanoid. So now we've got the humanoid object. What we want to do here is we're going to wait for 3 seconds, and then we're going to do humanoid.walk_speed equals 0. So this is just going to set our speed to be 0 essentially. Then we're going to do humanoid.jump_power equals 0. And then what you can do here is we're going to do humanoid.use jump power equals true. And essentially this just basically means that on the humanoid right now it doesn't use jump power, it uses another variable called jump height. And to be fair, you could just change the jump height's value as well, but I personally just use jump power. So I just set jump power to be true, and then I just set jump power to 0, so it means they can't jump. And then we're also going to do humanoid.auto rotate to be false. And this basically means like if they're in shift lock mode, they still won't be able to just rotate the character. And then we're just going to do task.wait 2 seconds, and then we just want to set this back to the default. So we're going to set this to true, and then we're going to I forgot what the jump power is by default. I'm just going to set it to 40, and then walk speed, the default is 16. So basically we're going to wait 3 seconds, get my character and get the humanoid within my character, set walk speed to 0, jump power to 0, make sure we are using the jump power variable to make sure that's true, and we're going to set auto rotate to false, wait 2 seconds, and then set everything back to default. So if I press play, just gonna walk around, and then boom, I can't move anymore, and now I can move again. So that's essentially how you would freeze a player and unfreeze. So it's pretty straightforward, and it's useful. You can, you know, use it. You can use it in your games. But yeah, now before we continue to the next section of the tutorial, I did forget to include another method of freezing the player. So this way we're not going to be changing the humanoid's properties, but we're going to be affecting the humanoid root part instead. So right now I've got the script just like how I've done it before in the tutorial. It's in workspace, and at the moment it's just going to wait 3 seconds, wait for my character to load, then it'll get my character, and then we're going to get the humanoid root part. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to set the anchored property to true, and that essentially means the character will be frozen in place, wait 2 seconds, and then it sets it back to false again, and that means the player will be able to move again. So I'll show it to you right now. So right now I'm just running, and as you can see I've frozen. However, you saw that my animations are still playing, right? That's the one downside to using anchored. So by anchoring the humanoid root part, that's the one downside essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So animations can still play. I think you can still maybe jump, or the jump animation still plays. Let me try it. Nah, it doesn't play, but still, Yeah, so the animations play. I don't know if there's any other issues, but what I would recommend is if you want them to be truly frozen in place, I'd recommend using this anchor feature and also changing the humanoid's values as well. A good thing about setting the humanoid root part, I mean, to be anchored is that let's say the character's jumping in the air. Ah, couldn't time it properly. But essentially what I'm trying to show you is if you're in the air, it should freeze you in the air. Oh, I can't time it. I can't be bothered to do that right now. But basically, if you're jumping in the air or if you're falling or whatever, you're going to be stuck in that same spot. However, if you only change the humanoid's attributes alone, you might not be able to move, but if you're falling down or if you're in the air, you basically just fall back down essentially. So yeah, so you can either use one or the other or combine both of them depending on your use case scenario. And lastly, before we go to the next section, another downside of using anchored is the fact that body movers, they will not affect the character essentially. So if you try and apply any physics to the character, nothing will be applied to it. So you should keep that in mind as well. So as I said, it's all situational. I've used it in my game as well, and it just depends on what you need to do. But yeah, if you have any questions about it, you can just speak about it down in the comments. And lastly, what I do want to show you is how you can move a player to go from point A to point B by walking. Once again, this is pretty straightforward. So we're just gonna have to once again use a humanoid object. We're gonna do humanoid move to, and then as you can see, this is the same function that we used for the character. However, when we use it on the humanoid, it changes slightly. So it basically tells the humanoid to walk instead. So we're just going to do move to, and once again, we just provide a position. So we're going to do game.workspace.target.position. Then now when I press play, I'm going to move my player to go to the target. And yeah, so obviously you can also use this for NPCs as well. I would say you mainly should use it for NPCs rather than players, because if you use it for the player, I didn't show you it before, but I'll show you it now. During the walk, we can literally walk out of it. So it's if you're gonna use it for a player, you should search up how you can disable a player's controls. So I think you use user input service or context action service. I forgot which service. But if you do a bit of research, you'll find out how you can disable a player's controls. And once you do that, then you should be able to just make them be able to move to the target without the player interrupting it. However, this is a very basic way of moving, because I'll show you in a moment. First, let me create a NPC. So I'm gonna create a NPC. I'm gonna move my part here, and then instead of referencing me, we're gonna reference the NPC instead. So it's called here the rig, and I'm gonna create a wall in between. So just call this wall. Let's make this wall extra big. And now essentially the issue is when we use move to, it's gonna run straight into the wall instead of trying to go around it. So give it a few seconds. It's gonna move, and you can see it runs straight into the wall right there. So obviously this is quite an issue, especially if you want your NPCs to be, you know, a bit smarter than that. So what we can use instead is something called PathfindingService. I believe that's the name. If it's not, you can correct me down in the comments. I personally don't really use PathfindingService since my games don't really have NPCs. So, but your game might have NPCs that need to be smart. But basically what PathfindingService does is that you provide it the destination of wherever you want the NPC to go to. So for example, we'd get target, and essentially PathfindingService will find a good path where it doesn't get obstructed, the NPC. So for example, in this case, it's gonna find the part, and it's gonna detect there's a wall in between you and the part, the NPC and the part, I mean. And then it's gonna figure out the path. So it's gonna go boop 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 to the wall, and it's gonna go all the way around, maybe to here, and then it's gonna go straight to the part, essentially the target. So that's how it probably do the pathfinding. So yeah, if you wanna find out more about it, I'll provide a link down in the description below. But yeah, so that's essentially it for the tutorial. It's pretty useful things that you should definitely know, and you will definitely use it in your games. And yeah, and do you know how I was previously testing it on my player model up until the end? You can also use it on any NPC or any humanoid object really. So just keep that in mind when you implement this. And lastly, I did forget to mention before, but when using TweenService to do the knockback, for example, it is all good and well. However, there are other ways that you can perform a dash or a knockback. You can use something called body movers. So there is body velocity, but however, that is depreciated, which basically means that you shouldn't really be using it anymore. So you should be using the new movers. So you could use align position and align orientation. You can use linear velocity. There's a few other movers that you can use to essentially achieve that same effect of, you know, moving a player from point A to point B smoothly. And the good things about movers as well is that they also have physics as well enabled. When using TweenService, the physics is kind of all over the place, or there isn't any at all. But I'm not going to cover movers in this video. I think it's you know, it should be covered in another video instead, because there's quite a lot of things that you can use movers for, and it's not it is simple, but yeah, I just don't have enough time to do it for this video. But yeah, that's basically it for the video. I hope you did learn something new today, and be sure to try it out in Roblox Studio for yourself and try and implement this in your project. And yeah, if you did enjoy the video, just be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for extra support and love. And if you have any other video ideas, or if you want to see anything for the future, just be sure to comment below. If you need any help, I'll be more than happy to reply. And yeah, that's pretty much everything from me. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video.